Michelle with Magnolia Grove Homestead. I am coming to you today from my kitchen because, for one thing, it's been raining all day off and on. It's cloudy. It's just gross outside. But for another thing, I had a different kind of video that I wanted to talk to you about today. This video was primarily spawned from my brain going down a rabbit hole of thought. I am on a different social media platform, and I'm in a group where there are women who farm and homestead and garden and all the like. And usually the group is used to kind of bounce ideas off of one another and that kind of thing. However, there was a post recently by somebody who was having an issue with her own dreams and hopes, and she and her husband were not on the same terms as far as what they wanted to do and what their end goal was. She wants this huge production garden and livestock and all of that, and he wants to live in town. He'll let her have a little garden, you know, and so she was just kind of reaching out to other people to see, you know, as we women sometimes do, like, am I being irrational, or how should I handle this, or that kind of thing. And I read through the comments, and the comments struck a chord with me. There were a lot of people who encouraged this person to leave her husband and to throw away her marriage and chase her own dreams and all this stuff. And my brain works in this, I'm an overthinker. I think too much, and I'll go from one thing to the next. My husband will tell you I am always thinking about something. My brain is always going about something. And so I got to thinking about how all these people were saying, just throw it away. And I realized that we are in a throwaway society. We waste tons and tons and tons of pounds of food every year. How many water bottles can circle the earth now? How many times? You know, we are in a it's broke, don't fix it, throw it away and buy a new one society. And so I wanted to come to you today and talk to you about things that you may throw away, that you may not understand the potential that they have, namely regrowing groceries that you already have, maybe in your refrigerator or your pantry. Maybe these are things that you go buy every so often. Maybe they're things that you buy all the time. Maybe they're things that you use but you don't use all of it, and you toss the rest of it. And I want to encourage you and let you know that some things you don't have to throw away. Some things may seem like waste, but they really aren't. They have big potential to do great things for your home. And so on the counter here, I have tons of groceries that are not throwaways. They are not a one and done use. You can regrow your food from these things from the grocery store. A lot of times this will save you money because it's cheaper to buy some of these foods and regrow them than it is to find seeds and purchase enough seeds to grow these vegetables. Also, right now, I know some of the seed companies are starting to pick back up as far as their supply and demand, but there has been a shortage in a lot of seed companies. They have just not been able to provide the amount because so many people are starting to garden. Plus, they're short-staffed. They have to separate out how many employees they have because of COVID restrictions and all this stuff. So a lot of seed companies have been behind. So if you're looking for seeds now, certain things you may be too late. But it's okay. You might be able to go to the grocery store and get what you need and plant these things. So I have a list of 26 things that you can regrow from the grocery store. I want to start with my latest science experiment. I had a bulb onion, just like this, from the grocery store. You see this part? This is the root part of an onion, okay? A lot of times, Julia Child will tell you to lop off this side of the onion, turn it over, cut this in half, and then slice and dice your onion. But that gets rid of your root. I had an onion in the pantry that had actually started sprouting. Like this part here turned green and was shooting out. So I took the onion and I set it in a bowl of water. And I set the bowl of water and the onion in the windowsill for a couple days. And these roots started to grow. I mean, they grew massively. And I just kept changing out the water every day. And I wanted to see what would happen. How far would this onion go? So, over the course of probably about 10 days, 10 to 14 maybe, I ended up with an onion with 3 separate shoots, and they were all springing off. So I thought, I wonder if I can cut these pieces and get 3 onion bulbs out of this one onion that I would have thrown away, right? Because the center of it was green. Well, in these jars are the separate onions that I got from that onion bulb. Now, all I have to do is get dirt in my raised beds this weekend and plant these, and they are going to provide me with a new onion. Y'all see that? That is so cool to me. I actually included this in my little kids' homeschool stuff the last couple weeks because I think this is pretty doggone amazing that an onion that would have went to waste or maybe would have been diced up and used one time could make 3 more onions. So these I will get planted, and I want to plant them out in the raised bed, and we're going to get all that taken care of this week. But I will plant them, the whole roots in the dirt up to here. And actually you can harvest some of these greens if you wanted to. But I'll let these grow and form bulbs, and I'll have 3 new onions. Instead of throwing my onion that was sprouting and probably not that great to eat away. The next thing I want to talk to you about is another science experiment that I did. I had green onions, and on the bottom of a fresh green onion, it looks a lot like these, right? There's little, if you buy a bag of green onions, there's a lot of little roots at the bottom. And usually what you do when you're preparing those is you lop off the bottom half of an inch, right? That's the white part with the roots. And you throw that in the trash, and then you dice up your green onions and you put it on your dish. Well, I thought, these look like roots, so I wonder what they would do in water. Well, let me show you what a green onion does. If you cut the top off and put it in water, this has been cut off for 2 days. So this new shoot here is 2 days of growth in the window. I cut the onions down to here. You can see that. I cut the green onion down to here. You know, I cut the top part off, diced it up, and used it. And then new shoots started growing, and that's after 2 days being in the window. So, you can take those too, plant them in the ground, root down. I will plant them about that deep and just let them continue to grow. And in about, I don't know, 7 to 10 days of being out in the ground, since they're shooting up so much now, I will be able to harvest green onions from these. And I will be able to continue to harvest throughout the season. Another thing that's very common, you probably already know about this, but if you don't, potatoes. So I went to the local, we have a little farm store down the street, and they had 25-pound bags, I want to say they're about this tall, of seed potatoes. They were $25 a bag. Now, if you are going to plant rows and rows of potatoes, that may be what you want to do. It might be quicker, easier, more efficient. I'm not planting rows and rows of potatoes. I'm planting my potatoes in 5-gallon buckets. So, that way when it comes time to harvest them, all I got to do is dump them over and harvest the potatoes. I know, it's lazy gardening, but it works. But I went to the grocery store 3 days ago. And I don't know if it's because of the way things are being shipped now, or if it's because these were organic potatoes. Maybe they didn't have as many chemicals sprayed on them to keep them good for longer. I don't know. But this bag of potatoes is 3 days old. Usually you could go to the store and buy a bag of potatoes, take some out, sit them in the window for a few days, and they will start what is called chitting, or developing little eyes on the potatoes. So if you take this potato and you cut the eyes off, and you don't need this whole chunk with this many eyes to plant one potato. You can cut individually. You just want to make sure you have like an inch by an inch cube. At least it needs some of the meat there to put in the dirt. But you'll plant these potatoes from the grocery store like you would any other seed potato. Plop it down, plant it. It will grow. You keep it mounded up with dirt as it grows, and it will produce multiple potatoes from one of these store-bought potatoes. So if you think I paid $2.50 for a 5-pound bag of potatoes, they are all chitting. Every single one of them. I've got more over by the pantry that are doing this. But do you see how many eyes are in these potatoes? Each eye is going to produce 2 to 4 potatoes a piece. So that's a lot of potatoes from a $2.50 bag of potatoes. Another thing I want to tell you about is sweet potatoes. So sweet potatoes can take longer than regular, white or yellow potatoes from the grocery store. But do you see these little purple sprouts here that come out of the pointy end of the sweet potato? Those are roots. That's just like the other ones that chit. Sweet potatoes do the same thing. So when I get ready to plant my sweet potatoes in my buckets, I will lop off this part of the potato. I can still use all of this for dinner, but I want to plant this top end here with this sprout, and that way I will get sweet potatoes from the ones that I bought at the store. The next thing that I think is pretty neat is celery. Celery you can propagate by cutting this bottom end of the celery off. You want to cut this much. All the rest of this, the stalks that you're going to eat anyway, go ahead and use them. But when you plant this bottom end down in the ground, the new celery stalks will start to form. I believe it takes about 2 to 4 weeks for new celery leaves to start sprouting up, but they will sprout up out of this bottom here, and you can plant new celery without having to start from seed, without having to go buy starter plants. Just go get I think this thing was $1.24 for all this celery that, we don't eat a whole lot of celery anyway, so it's a lot for us, and it's going to make a whole new bundle for us. Lettuce works the same way. This package of 3 romaine hearts of lettuce I think was $1 something. But you're going to do the same thing. It's the same concept. Cut the end off. Eat this part. That's what you're going to do anyway. but I guarantee you're going to throw this part in the trash. Don't do that. Put this in some dirt, water it in. Within 2 weeks, you will have new leaves of lettuce growing. Leeks. Leeks work the exact same way. You see these roots? These are roots. Cut this off and plant it. Use this part. You were going to do that anyway. Use this part to plant. And within 2 to 4 weeks, you will have new sprouts of leeks coming up out of your dirt. Carrots. I just bought these today. And I looked through the bags to find some really good ones. And I didn't know that I was going to have this much of a good look. But do you see this carrot? It's trying to grow leaves already. What it's doing is pulling the starches and sugars from the carrot to try to grow new leaves. If I take this, cut this top inch off of this carrot, plant it flat side down in the ground, right? Because carrots are roots. This is the root. When I plant this in the dirt, then within a couple weeks, I'm going to have new sprigs of carrot leaves forming. Now, there are 2 schools of thought when it comes to carrots that I have noticed in my research. Some people say that this will not grow new carrots. It will only grow leaves, which you can use the leaves from the carrots in like salads and things anyway, so it's not a waste. But then other people say that you can grow new carrots. So we're probably going to experiment with this here at home this year and just see what happens. Another cool thing, ginger. So when you go to the store, get you 1 piece. This thing costed next to nothing. 1 piece that's at least 2 inches by 2 inches. I mean, you want a good sized chunk. You're going to break your ginger and plant it in the dirt. Cover it, and within, I think it's 2 to 4 weeks, you'll start sprouting new ginger. Peppers. Everybody knows when you cut open a pepper, it's full of seeds, right? I have always thrown those seeds away. I never thought they were any good. However, I have watched other people's videos who are on their 4th generation of using store-bought pepper seeds. So what you do is open up your pepper. You're going to take all the seeds out. Lay them on a dry paper towel and label them store-bought pepper and put the date on there. Let them dry for a couple days on the paper towel and then put them in a little Ziploc bag and label that bag with what kind of pepper it was and that it was store-bought. The reason that you want to do that with your pepper seeds is because most likely this is going to be a hybrid of some sort. You may grow the seeds from this and you will get pepper. It may not get as big, it may look a little different, may taste a little different, but you're going to get pepper from this pepper, even though it's coming most likely from a hybrid seed. Garlic. If you leave garlic in the refrigerator or the pantry too long, you'll notice that it starts shooting up green sprouts. That's because it's trying to grow. So if you open up a bulb of garlic, which a bulb of garlic costs like, what, 10 cents? You open this up and take the cloves apart. Use your fatter cloves and plant them. When you plant garlic, the rule of thumb is to be a thumb's inch deep and a hand's width apart from each other. So like 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart from another clove of garlic. I've got some garlic on the back porch that I started. I didn't plant it that far apart. We'll see what happens. It may not get as big. I don't know. But you can take your garlic from the grocery store, even if it's not sprouting already, instead of going and buying a box of garlic bulbs like I had already done, and plant your garlic from the stuff from the store. You're gonna get garlic. Next thing I want to talk to you about, tomatoes. So, I know that I am planting heirloom tomatoes this year. I'm not planting anything, no hybrids, no, I'm going solely with heirloom tomatoes this year. And that's my own personal choice. But you don't have to. Last year, when I knew that we were moving and I was going to plant in containers, there was a seed shortage. I couldn't find tomato seeds anywhere. I have a friend who told me, Michelle, just go to the store, grab a tomato, take a slice of it and plant it. And then when the seedlings come up, you can separate them out and you'll have all these tomato plants. Well, I thought she was crazy, to be honest with you. But I did it. Y'all, I had so many tomato plants, it was insane. Now, not every tomato that I planted looked like the one that I had planted. Of course, it was a hybrid from the grocery store. But I'm willing to bet that if you plant seeds from a larger tomato, you're going to get a larger tomato. Whereas if you plant seeds from a small grape or cherry tomato, you're most likely to get a small tomato. Now, who knows? You might just buy some cherry tomatoes and get some whoppers. But you're going to get tomatoes either way. So if you can't find seeds, if you want to make this easy for yourself, if you have a tomato that's fixing to go bad and you're not going to eat it, and you don't have any seeds already, go get your tomato from the grocery store. This does not have to be complicating. Something that is a little more complicating, and I can't do this here because of my climate, but if you're in a warmer climate, you can totally do this. Take an avocado, and you know the inside, it's called the pit. That's actually the seed. So you'll open your avocado, take out the pit. What you want to do with that is take 2 toothpicks and stick them right in the middle. Pretend I got a pit right here. Stick them right in the middle of that pit and suspend it over a jar or bowl of water. Half of that avocado seed is going to be submerged in water. The other half will not, right? Because it's up out of the jar of water. You got to make sure you keep water in there. But the part that is not in water will start sprouting an avocado plant. Something else that you can use straight from the produce aisle. Herbs. You can take sprigs of herbs, remove the bottom leaves, put them in water, and within 10 to 14 days, some of them take about 4 weeks, your sprigs will start to grow root. When you have roots on the end of your herb sprigs, go ahead and stick them in the ground and plant them. A couple of things that you'll want to pay attention to, like this is a sprig of thyme. So if I were going to stick this in water to root it, I would remove the bottom leaves from the stem, right? And I'll put this in water. You want to make sure that your stem, when you're doing this with your herbs, that it's not too woody, it's not too brown. You want to make sure that you have green stem there, because that's what's going to grow root out of the bottom. And when you have root, go ahead and stick it in the ground and plant it. Boom, you got thyme. Instead of having to fiddle with seeds and separate things out and all that, you already know how many plants you're going to have. I don't know if y'all have seen thyme seeds before, but they're like smaller than pepper flakes, and it's really hard to spread them out. So usually when you plant thyme, you end up having to thin it out, or if not, you have this big, huge thing, because it's really hard to plant like one thyme seed here and there. So this is probably a lot more efficient, honestly. Something that is more complicated, there is more information out there. I'm not going to be able to go over all of the details. But you can grow apples from apples in the store. So what you want to do is cut your apple in half, open it up, get your seeds out. Put your seeds in a bowl of soil, cover them, and put it in the freezer over winter. That's what an apple does. It has to freeze over winter in order to be good. Then you want to look up more information about grafting an apple tree. So if you plant those seeds, you're going to end up with like a crab apple. If you take those seeds out, grow them a little bit, and then graft that seed with a cutting of another apple tree, then you will have a fruitful apple tree. There's a lot more information out there about doing that. I don't have another apple tree to show you how to graft from because mine are like little babies out there. So, but you can definitely do that. And the last group of things that we'll talk about are dried beans. So in this bowl I have dried beans, lots of different varieties that you can grow from the bag. Now, watch out when you go to the dried beans section of the grocery store and you see split peas. That's not going to work. That seed has been cut. But if you think about these beans that we typically take the bean out and dry them and then eat the bean is the seed, right? So if we were harvesting seeds from our pole beans, we would let the bean pod dry completely on the vine and then take the bean out of the pod. And that's what we would put up next year for seed. If we wanted to harvest it young, we could do that and eat just the bean, or we could can the beans or the seeds and cook them, hence dried beans. So some things that do exceptionally well from a bag of dried beans are pinto beans. And look how many are in here. You're not going to get a bag of seeds like with this many in there for $1 from any seed company. You're not. Black-eyed peas do well. Goya's small red beans. Lima beans. Chickpeas. Kidney beans, which on another show I watched, they said that the kidney bean is actually the mature bean from like a string bean pod, which is interesting to know. And lastly, black beans. Now, some people will take their dried beans and they'll lay about between 14 to 20 of each variety out on a tray, on a paper towel. You can wet that paper towel and wet those seeds and keep them moist and covered with another paper towel for a few days, and usually you will see the germination rate, whether they're going to sprout or not. There is talk of some of these beans from different companies, countries, whatever, sometimes being sprayed with a radioactive material so that they don't re-sprout. However, all the information that I looked at had almost 100% germination rate with every one of those varieties of beans. Now, that's a lot of beans in here. So it is not going to hurt one bit to take 20 of these beans out, lay them on a tray, wet them, and see if they sprout. And then when they sprout, go ahead and plant them in the ground. You don't have to sprout them before you plant them. You can just go ahead and plant them. I mean, that's how you get volunteer beans in your garden, right? Because a pod will dry up, the beans will fall out on the ground, and then boom, next year when spring starts rolling around, you got volunteer bean plants. Well, it's the same concept. So you don't have to sprout them before you plant them, but you're more than welcome to. That way you know your germination rate. If they don't sprout, it's $1. It's okay. It's not $5 for a pack of a decent sized pack of seeds, right? And you still wouldn't get that many in a $5 pack from most seed companies. There are a few things to take into consideration when planting vegetables from the grocery store. So, unless you go to a farmer's market where you know that all of the produce there has not been sprayed with chemicals and pesticides and growth hormones and that kind of thing, or if you get certified organic stuff from the grocery store, like some of these herbs are organic, so I don't have to worry about that, then that works out good. But there may be a risk of some type of hormones, chemicals, whatever, have been sprayed on these in the field wherever they were harvested from. However, if you're looking to save money, if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you're interested in figuring out how to do your own thing a little bit differently. So I don't know. I feel like nature will kind of take care of itself in that way, as long as you don't treat these with pesticides and chemicals and hormones. I think they'll be fine. Also, things like tomatoes or peppers, you know, if you plant thyme, you're going to get thyme, and it's most likely going to look exactly like you expect it to look. However, if you plant a hybrid pepper or a hybrid tomato, it may not look or taste exactly like the one that you bought out of the store, but who knows? If you treat this plant right, it may actually be better than the one you bought out of the store. It's kind of a gamble, but it's also, one tomato, after you weigh it out, is going to cost you about 30 cents probably. So, and there's hundreds of seeds in a tomato. If you want heirloom tomato seeds that you purchased from or got from a fruit that you didn't grow, you might consider going to the farmer's market. Maybe they're selling brandy wines, or, you know, whatever, San Marzanos or something that you can just grab one of and get your own seeds out of there. You don't have to take a slice of tomato and plant the slice. You can open the tomato up like you would do a tomato from your garden. Take a spoon, scoop all the seeds in gel. They're covered in gel. You're going to scoop all that out, put it in a jar, cover it with water, shake it up for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days on your countertop. And after all of the seeds have fallen to the bottom and the junk rises to the top, then you scoop the junk off the top. That's stuff that is not viable. That's the gel, maybe some of the meat of the tomato, or seeds that are not viable or not going to reproduce. You scoop all that off, pour the remainder of water and good seed through a cheesecloth or something, some sort of strainer. You don't want to lose your seeds. And then transfer them to a paper towel, lay them out on the counter for a few days, let them dry completely, label them, go plant them in the ground. So I hope this helps somebody out there to understand, again, the same point that I'm trying to drive, is that gardening, sourcing your own food, it is not a black and white, cut and dry kind of picture. You can think outside the box. You can do other things. If you call Baker Creek or Seed Savers Exchange or something, they're going to try to sell you their seeds. And honestly, they are great heirloom variety seeds. Don't get me wrong. But if you're not in the position to do that, if you just need to grab something quick to throw in the ground, or something inexpensive, maybe you don't have $3 a pack times how many ever things you want to grow. I mean, there's 26 different things on the countertop here. So whatever that is times 3, that's how much money plus shipping that you would have to pay out, in addition to all your other gardening costs, which is your beds, your soil, and whatnot. So if you're in the position where you just need to get food cheap and sourced with a little bit of thought, then definitely go to the grocery store. Make use of what you have. quit throwing away good stuff. This is good stuff. Now I'm not going to eat the core of a lettuce, but I can plant it and have a whole new head of lettuce. And as long as I keep harvesting off of that, I will continue to have lettuce the whole season until the cold kills it. I hope this encourages somebody to go out and do something fun, experiment with new things, try different things. Quit listening to what people tell you. Your garden does not have to look like everybody else's. It doesn't have to start the same way everybody else's does. It doesn't have to end up the same way that everybody else's does. It is okay to do things outside the box, outside the norm, outside what the books will tell you. Have fun, go experiment with something new, have a great day, and God bless.